So this recording, we are going to do the balsa wood tower. Now, on the YouTube channel, which I have over here, we'll see that we've already started doing the balsa wood tower tutorial for Fusion. So if you are following and subscribed, which you all should be, you'll see a double up on the episodes shown there, but I'm going to call this tower B, the second tower, because the other class will be the A tower, this will be the B tower, so we can follow along with that. And again, that website is here, YouTube, find it, Kore Sensei, subscribe, everything is in playlists, all the stuff that you need for your playlists right now are in stage 5, engineering stuff, which involves a whole bunch of stuff that was done last year as well and for year 9 and 10. So we're going to make the balsa wood tower in Fusion 360. What is Fusion 360? If you've just downloaded and installed it, you've loaded it up. So Fusion 360 is a CAD software, which means computer-aided design. It's going to make some models of our object. When we make it, we have the advantage of we can then take it to another area in the software where we can do the orthographic drawings automatically. We can also do testing. And also because it's a computer software, just like the difference between writing out one sentence and then copying it, if you have to write it by hand, you have to do multiple writings, you can copy paste. Similar advantage in Fusion as well. If we do a tower, our tower involves 4 sides basically. So if we do one side of the tower, we can then copy that 4 times and it saves us in building time. And then we can measure things, we can find approximations, do simulations, and so forth. The first time you open up Fusion, you're probably listed with a screen that says team, join a team. Because Fusion is a professional software, so if you're like Tesla and you have Fusion, you might be in the team that designed the Model S. That's thousands of people could all be using the same images. So the people who are working on the door handle, people who are working on the door frame can look at the CAD models of people making the door handle to see how they match in their design. You should have the student account, so the actual joining team thing should be non-existent for you, should be grayed out. So just say, make your own team, pick a name of whatever you want your team name to be. Then you're left with this screen over here. Fusion 360 is like most software in that you have your past designs loaded up. If I do the show panel, over here it shows my past designs was a butterfly tutorial. If I go to home, I can have it in categories. So when I save this, it's going to be in stage 5 engineering, because that's what you're in. No, stage 4 is year 7, 8. You are stage 5. And like if I open up stage 5 engineering, we have stuff from like all my lamps, previous tutorials in there. Now, the next tab over here is the file. This is where you start a new file, you start a new design. You can also open past designs. It's also like Google Chrome or like a browser where if I press this plus button over here, it's also going to make a new design and see how we have untitled and untitled one. So you can have multiple files open. And you can close it by pressing that square. Fusion is a CAD software. It's an additive CAD software, which means we start with a 2D shape and we make it into 3D. Like you start with a triangle and you make a triangular prism. We start these 2D shapes by making a sketch. Now, as soon as I press the sketch button, it loads up on the screen. It's going to show these 3 rectangular, well, these are technically squares, but they're at like angles. So imagine them like faces on a cube. It's saying when you do your sketch, where do you want your sheet of paper to be? Because the sketch has to be a flat shape. So if I'm doing my tower, I'm going to start by doing the balsa wood I'm going to start by doing the box that we know our tower has to be limited by. So the box, so I'm going to start by making the box. I'm going to sketch on this bottom and look as the screen rearranges itself when I press this button. The screen has rearranged itself. So now it looks like you're looking on a flat piece of paper. The box. Fusion 360 allows me to make lines. As we're doing our sketches, I can press to create, and these are like the tools that we can start by doing our sketch. We'll start with the simplest one. We'll start with the line. If I press the line, and if we hover over the line, it will explain how we do it. Select the start and end point to determine the line segment. You can also click or drag to move stuff around. So I'm making a line. I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to drag my line out. Notice how down in that blue, in that box which has the text highlighted, it has the distance that changes. So it has the millimeters there already. So I can start by making my box. Now I am going to make half of my box first, and then I'll show you a tool where we can do the other half. So I'm doing half of my box. Starting from the center going out, the dimensions of the box is 150 by 150. So I need to make this go out. I can type 150 and the line automatically goes out to 150. But I only want to go half that distance. So what's half of 150? 75? That's too smart for me. I don't know that. Fusion, I can write 150 divided by 2 and Fusion automatically does it for you. This does simple equations, like simple addition, simple equations in there. It's great for that. 150 divided by 2. It's really good if you want to do something divided by 3 because usually divided by 3 is like a recurring number. You could do that. And then I press enter. All right, we can do the other ones. If that's 75, then I can click here and go up. Again, this is going to be 75. Now, the angle I have here is 90 degrees. Notice here as I start moving, the angle changes. But the 75 doesn't change. Because I typed in 75 and then press tab, it has a padlock next to it. So now that 75, the distance won't change. So I can press tab, and in here, I can write 90 degrees. And then I can press enter. Now I can finish off this one. Do we know how long this is going to be? This is going to be 150. Enter. We go down. Next, as I'm bringing this down to the bottom, where my mouse is, right when I get to the bottom here, do we see how there is a blue square around the mouse? Fusion tries to be smart when it's doing these sketches. It's trying to think, what are you trying to use? In this case, it's trying to snap it to the grid, right? That's why, because like that's where there's like an even centimeter or whatever. So it's trying to snap it to that. So if my mouse was close to it, it's going to select that. There's another one in the top right-hand corner. What's that shape represent? Yeah, 90 degrees. That's what you do for a right angle. So, and blue means, yes, it is 90 degrees. So even if I move my mouse slightly left and right, if I move my mouse slightly, it's still going to try to lock to the 90 because it assumes you're doing 90 degrees. If you have to do some different angle, you can always press tab and you can change that angle in there if you want. Now, the last one, we go and we finish this off. Notice the background right now is white. As soon as I press this button over here, what color is the background? Blue, yes. What blue means is this is now a closed surface. So it's like, it's closed. That's now a 2D object. I can now make this into 3D. If you try to do it and like you miss slightly and it's open, it's not going to be blue, which means you can't turn that into a 3D object. All right, we can finish with this. Now, Fusion is additive. So we have this 2D shape. We can make it into 3D. The simplest tool we're going to use is the extrusion tool, where if we go press this, go to create and press extrude. And let's read what extrude says. Extrude says, adds depth to an open or closed sketch profile or faces. Select the extrusion type, select the sketch profile or face to extrude, and then specify the distance. So what we made there, closed surface sketch profile is the word they're using for it. That's that blue shape. We want to make that into 3D. So that's the rectangle that we want to turn into the rectangular prism, or the triangle that we want to turn into the triangular prism. We press that shape, which we've selected here. It's dark blue. Now over here, as soon as we press extrude, we had this little table open up here on the right. This is the extrude menu. So it gives us the parameters that we want to extrude. The parameters that we want to extrude with. So yep, we've selected that shape. We're starting it. We're not going to change this. We're probably not going to change the symmetrical one for now. Distance, we're going to manually put a distance in. So the distance we want, this box is 100 millimeters high. So we just do 100. And then we press enter. We don't need to adjust the tamper angle. So this now is half of the box that our tower has to be bigger than on the bottom. We're missing this half of the box here. Another tool we can use, we can create, we can do a mirror. So whatever's on one side, copy to the other side or press mirror. We can select the object. This is the object. Oh, before we do the object, when we make the 2D shape into a 3D thing, in Fusion it calls it a body. So over here, we've made body 1. As we get more and more pieces of balsa wood, we can make more bodies, and they're going to be listed in this tree over here. So if we go to mirror, mirror says, what objects are we copying? We are selecting a body. So if I press this, we've selected this body that we're going to mirror. And the mirror plane, we want it to be reflecting on this side over here. And if we press that, it's going to reflect it over. And now this is the object that we need our tower to be bigger than. Okay. How do we mirror it again? We go through, so create, mirror, we select the body, and then the mirror plane, we press this face over here, the symmetrical plane. All right, now let's do the one at the top that we have to make it smaller than. What we will do for this one is, let's go and, so this is now, we're going to start building from the top of the tower downwards to make like the cap that the tower has to be bigger than. If I go and, over here we have these eyes, which are like hide and unhide. If I unhide the origin, we see we have those 3 shapes there that we used, like these 3 surfaces that we used to do our sketching on. But unfortunately, it's on the floor, but we need it to be higher. So what we're going to do is we're going to do construct, we're going to offset plane. We're going to select the flat, what is this? This is the ZX plane. We're going to select that and we're going to offset it. So now, see, I'm making another version of that plane, but it's going to be elevated above it. How high should our tower be? 300, yes. So when I say the distance, I can just say 300. And now this plane is 300 millimeters above the ground. We're going to sketch it. Sketch over here. So now we're sketching. We need to make the 75 by 75. This will be a great reason to show you another tool that we can use. When we go to create, let's go and let's create a rectangle. Let's make either, we can do a 2-point rectangle or a center rectangle. We'll do the center rectangle for this one. So if we hover over center rectangle, it should tell us how to make it. Center rectangle creates a rectangle using 2 points. You define the center and 1 corner. Select the first point as the center of the rectangle and select the second point as the corner. So we can do that. This is our center. We click this point and then we're pressing where the next point is. See how it's making the rectangle based on that shape? We can type in 75 and we can type in 75. This is the shape that our tower needs to be smaller than, yes. Enter. Now the issue we have is as we make this into a 3D object, it's not going to look good if our tower is going into a 3D object. So actually we've got to draw something outside it to say that our tower is going to fit inside that. So this sketch over here, we're going to use the offset tool. What the offset tool does is it copies the selected sketch curve and you do a specified distance and it makes an object the same distance. Think like parallel, except like also for curves. So more like train tracks actually around the object. So we press offset, we select these curves that we just made, and now if I drag this, you can see how we're making a shape around it. So let's make this 10 millimeters. And then if we press OK, so now these are both blue. I know it's not exactly blue, but that's because there's a brown object behind it. But these are both closed surfaces. And you can also tell when I hover my mouse over it, see how it can highlight the whole surface. Finish sketch. Now what I just did there, I pressed the home button. Up here in the top right hand corner, this square, we can rotate this to move our object around. It's going to be useful as you're changing where you're drawing. And if you press this home button up in the top right, it's going to get your drawing and fit it on your page the best it can. This object, we can turn this sketch into the 3D thing that we need. We're just going to select the outside rim, and now notice here, if I put a positive number of 85, it's going upwards. That's not the direction we want because that's already at 300. We're on our, so we've got to think as we're extruding, we can extrude negatively and it does the same thing, it just brings it, we're just pulling it down. So if we do minus 85, it does it downwards. What this design means is our tower has to be larger than this bottom piece and smaller than this top piece. So it's going to have some sort of like Eiffel Tower looking thing. All right. Also, what we can do is these two parts here, we don't necessarily need them to be solid color because it might ruin our immersion, or like we want to see parts of the tower. Can someone shut the door, please? Thank you. So if we right click this piece over here, we can go to opacity control. Opacity is like how transparent the object is. If we change the opacity to 20%, we can see the object here on the whiteboard. I'll make it a bit darker actually. Opacity at 45%. We can see the object, but we can also see through it. And we'll do the same thing with our body number 2. Opacity control, 40%. So now we have to start designing our tower. And the approach I'm going to use is I'm going to make one rib, so one of the side vertical-ish panels. And then when I do that, I'm going to copy it 4 times by using a tool. Before I do that, there's one more thing we have to do. Over here with this sketch that we had this sketch of this square. Now Fusion, once you've used the sketch, it tries to hide it because it wants to get the messy stuff out of the way. You can use it though, so we can unhide it here. If we need to use it for something, we can use this sketch. One thing we have to add to this sketch, edit, we can right click and we can press edit sketch, is we need to make a circle in the middle as well, because eventually we need to rotate our tower around a circle if we're going to copy the pieces of the tower. So we can use the circle command, create a circle using the center and a diameter. We can do that. Press circle, the center is over here, and the diameter, we can just make the diameter out to here, and then finish that sketch. We can use this, we're going to use this circle later on. And we can hide this sketch, but we know where this sketch is. We'll refer to that circle later. Okay, sketching, press sketch. Next thing, I'm trying to press this panel down the bottom, but notice how it's highlighting the 2 walls of the box that we had. So that's not what I want to select. I want to select like what's behind it. Fusion, if you hold the mouse button, it lets you, it's like, imagine you shoot a bullet. Every object that that bullet passes through is going to be listed up here. So I go through, there's this face, there's this bottom face, and there's the XZ plane. I want to press the ZX plane. So now I can start drawing here. Now I'm just going to make up tower stuff because dimensions don't really matter for me. 2-point rectangle. The rectangle has to be larger than here, so I can just pick a point. Let's say I want this point over here. That's where I start. Now, what does matter is the size of this. This is going to be like looking down the piece of balsa wood. What dimension would that be?
5 by 5.
Exactly, 5 by 5. 5, tab, 5. Enter, done. Cool. Now, let's go into 3D view again. Where are the pieces out here? Okay, so this is a piece over here. We're then going to extrude this. Pick a height that makes sense. Let's say we do it 110. I can drag it or I can do it manually. Okay. Then I want to sketch at the top again. We need to unhide that plane that we made it before. Sketch, sketch. Again, we're doing a rectangle over here, and this rectangle is going to be 5 by 5. Enter. extruding this down, and let's make this also at minus 100. Press enter. So now I have these two rods ready to do my tower. The next thing I have to do is I have to get a rod to connect those together. What is the easiest way? The easiest way is to do it like this. Would that be the easiest way? Just thinking. No, so we want to build a rod, and the rod is going to be 5 by 5. We want to sketch on a plane that looks like this. So looking like this direction. So we need to make that plane. And so we're going to be using our construction. Now, from experience, the best one I've found is if you do a plane through 3 points. Now the 3 points, let's see if I can move over here. The 3 points we're going to pick. Do I have a pointy stick? Sort of. The 3 points I'm going to pick is we're going to pick this point over here, this point over here, and this point over here. Because those three, it means it's like that plane's going to cut that rod in half. And then we're going to sketch on that plane. So plane through 3 points. Oh, for the people watching on the video at home, that we're going to select this point over here. We're going to press this point over here. And we're going to press this point over here. So now we have this plane, and if we press OK, and now let's rotate the screen, and if we rotate it, we should see, yes, that's the plane that we want to make our member. Now we'll go to sketch. Now this is a specific thing that's going to assist you when you're trying to do these diagonal members. This is one where to do it in CAD-wise specifically is kind of annoying, but to do it in real life, you're just manually cutting and sanding your piece of wood. So we want our piece of wood to go through here. We want it to be going down the center of this piece of wood. Because of Pythagoras, we can't just do this height and this height because it's going to be slightly less. So what we want to do is we want to draw a line that connects this point to this point. Line. The problem is, the problem is we can't actually attach to this point here because it doesn't exist. It's not on our sketching plane. It's like slightly above it, if you imagine like it's the roof of a house. But Fusion does let us use it if we tell that we want to use it. So we go to Create, and we're going to go to Project and Include. What Project and Include does is it says, this point, anything I click here, please use that in my drawing. So we actually want to use this point over here, or actually we want to use this whole surface. We want to use this whole surface, and we want to use this surface, and we want to use this surface. And when I press OK, notice now we have these purple lines and these dots. So now when we do our sketch, we can go to Sketch. We can click that dot and we can press that dot, and now we can connect that line together. One problem we're going to have is when we extrude it, we need it to be a bit longer. So we're actually going to click that line, and we're going to try, as we pull it out here, it should be parallel. See how it says 0 degrees? So it should be parallel. That's the shape we want. We'll bring this line slightly out a bit more here. Press Escape. And we'll send this line slightly out more over here. Again, we want it to be 0 degrees. Not 0 degrees, sorry. I want it to be... All right, so now that I have this line over here, we're going to use the we're going to use this tool again, the offset tool. Now if we press this line, we'll offset, but see how down here, the offset has stopped. So what we'll actually do is, if we also press the other line, the offset will continue through there. And we'll do the same up here. We'll press this line as well for our offsets. And now we have this offset. Now this is going to be half of the piece of wood, so 2.5. 2.5, and then we'll press OK. And we got to do the other side as well. So okay. So we have this shape here, and notice how they're also all closed surface. So that's a good sign for us. Finish this sketch. We'll go into the 3D again to see what's happening. We'll rotate this around. So we want to make this into a 3D object, so we can use we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to use the extrusion tool. So we'll press extrude. We press this shape and this shape. And again, we're going to do 2.5 for the extrusion, but that's only half, right? So we're going to do the other half as well. So this is a one time where we can use, instead of doing in one direction, we can make it symmetric. So it's actually 2.5 on both sides. And then that, if we press OK, well, there we go. We have that part of the tower done. These walls. Now let's actually do something useful in Fusion, and we'll copy this 4 times. We don't have to do this 4 times. If we go to create, we're going to do the pattern, because we're doing the same thing multiple times. We're going to do the circular pattern in this case. Press circular pattern. The bodies we want, these bodies over here. So we click that. The axis we want to rotate around, this is why we had this circle up here. Where do we find it? So if we unhide that sketch, which I think was sketch number 3, sketch number 2. If we unhide sketch number 2, if we hover our mouse over the circle, because the circles have an axis, it's right through the middle of the circle. If we press that, look, it's already making 3 copies. By default, it's always going to do 3, but we want it to be 4, so we're just going to change this quantity up it to 4, and there we go. We have our 4 legs of our tower done. Now, for the sake of this drawing, I'm going to hide these pieces because we don't need these pieces anymore, because we know that we've got to be within these size limits. Now we can start bracing this tower, and again, we're going to brace one side of the tower, and then we'll copy it 3 times. So we will go to create sketch. We can actually press this shape over here, and then we can start sketching on that shape. So 5 by 5. Enter, and we want this shape up here. I'm doing a very simple design. Press OK, home. Which one was it? This one. So the 2 shapes are here. We can go extrude, click that, and we can start pulling them out. Right, now we can put in the distance we want. We can actually put in the exact distance. Or Fusion tries to be smart, and if you actually press this shape over here, when it's distance, so you hover over the distance one, right? And if you press this shape over here, it automatically brings it to that distance. So you have this brace already done. We can also do it through this view over here and do a line. Let's say we want a line to be diagonal between here and here. Hold on. From there to there, from This is our other diagonal line we want, and we need to do an offset for this. And before we finish, we can't have this. Oh, it will work. Yes, it will work. And now we can go finish that sketch, extrude this. We want this shape and this shape. And the direction we want it in is -5. So now I've done these members over here. It looks like the beginning of like a barn door. We can copy this. We can copy this by doing our pattern, circular pattern. Press this body again. Press the axis over here. 4 times. It doesn't matter that it's overlapping our previous pieces because we want it all to be joined together anyway. And now we've done that. And you can do the same things for this top piece, and you can do the same one for the bottom pieces. You can continue on with all that. That's where I'm going to leave this tutorial at to give you some time. You got 15 minutes into the lesson. Next lesson, I'm going to finish I'm going to show you a finished tower, and I'm going to show you how we can do some simulation tests on it and how we can bring it into the orthographic projection. And then you can use that information to like change your designs. One thing that's very useful about this is you can easily whip up another design. Once you know how to do it without a tutorial, you can do it within 15 minutes. You can change whether you want these, maybe you want another beam down the middle or another rod. You can do that and you can change it, plug it into a simulation, see how much material you need as well, which we can also find out on Fusion, and then you can rapidly prototype, test your design. Yes, how to save your design. Wonderful. Over here, this is not like Google. If you shut it, you've lost it, right? You have to go over here, you have to press the save button. If you try to close Fusion, it will warn and say, do you want me to save it by uploading first, which means it needs about 2 or 3 minutes to actually upload your design or you will lose it. So this is the first time we've saved it. It's still called Untitled. So I'll press the save button over here. Stage 5 engineering, that's us. X or Y? Which? Z. Wonderful. Okay. 2024 tower Z1. So you pick your location. So this is on the cloud. You know, I showed you where I had those categories. Mine's saved in Stage 5 engineering. You save yours in whatever you want, engineering, year 9, sure. It's nice to have all your projects because maybe it's, when you get like in year 11 and 12, you might use some of your CAD stuff to build like a portfolio if you're trying to apply for early entry for universities and stuff like that, especially if it's engineering. Press save button here. It needs some time to upload. The simple ones, simple internet, easy to upload. And then once you're done, you should be able to close it. Yes.